to start at the beginning of a month or at the beginning of a tax period so that we have our tax information in only one software. But here for the use case, I will show you that we can really switch whenever we want, and I will start to transition my accounting inside Odoo from tomorrow. So I will set the 10th of November as the switch threshold date, and I will save. If I come back to my customer invoices, as planned, all the invoices have been instantly cancelled, and they are clearly marked with the blue ribbon invoicing app legacy, which means that the invoices were created prior to the installation of the accounting app when we only had the invoicing application. If I check my report, my balance sheet again, I can see that of course this report is now at 0 as all the entries for invoices and payments have been cancelled. Now that all these entries created with the installation of the accounting app are cancelled, Emily's next step is to input her initial balances as of the date of the transition, so as of tomorrow. For that, she asked her accountant to send to her the opening balances, including the unpaid invoices and unpaid bills. Here is the file she received from her accountant. Emily had to make some adjustment to the Excel file because Odoo expects a certain column format to be able to make the import. However, with just basic Excel skills, Emily was able to prepare quickly a good file. The file was split into three. First, the general balance with all the accounts, but we removed the receivable and the payable accounts from this general balance, and we balance it with a suspense account. Next, we will import all the receivable accounts, so all the unpaid customer invoices, and we split this balance per partner, but also per invoice reference, and we included the due date of the invoice to ease future reconciliation and to have up-to-date reports. We did the exact same thing with the payable account, so the supplier balance, again split per partner, bills reference, and due date. And of course, we always balance this with a suspense account. So now is the time for Emily to import this into Odoo. So let's go back to her database, and I will import the opening balances in a miscellaneous operation journal. So I will go in the journal, click on the little wheel, import my records. I will load my correct file. And on the left side, I can choose the sheet I want to import. I will start with my general balance, and Odoo recognizes automatically the correct fields based on the name of the column. I will first test to see if my file is good. If I see a blue banner, it means that I can import it, and I can just click on import. I will do the exact same process for my customer invoices. So I will choose my customer balance this time. Again, all fields are recognized automatically, including the partner, the invoice reference, and the due date. I will test, and I can import this. And lastly, exact same process for my supplier balance. So on the left side, I choose my supplier balance, I test, and I can import. All the entries are now created in draft, so you see the status draft, and they are in blue, meaning that it's in a draft entry, so that you can double check that these entries are correct and modify these if needed. If everything is correct, you can simply post the opening balances, so we'll do the same for the supplier balance as well as for the customer balance. All the reports are instantly up to date with the data that you imported. So if I check my balance sheet report, of course, at the date of the transition, so I'm transitioning tomorrow, so at the date of the 10th of November, we see that my balance sheet is up to date, and it's the same for my profit and loss statement. And what's really interesting is that my age receivable report, for instance, at the date of the transition, is also up to date, and I can keep a clear view of all the invoices due by my client with the invoice reference and with the timeline as well. After the import of the opening balance, a recurring question is about how will we manage the first synchronization with the bank. When you first synchronize your bank with Odoo, Odoo creates automatically a first opening bank statement with the current amount you have on your bank account. As I do not have bank synchronization, I will simply create this bank statement manually, but it would come automatically with the bank synchronization. Of course, I synchronize my bank from the date of the transition, and it's an opening statement. And I currently have $6,000 on my bank account, and I can save. As we see, we will need to reconcile this opening statement with something. What I didn't tell you is that if I come back to my general balance, the current amount I have on my bank account was not set on my financial bank account from my church account, but instead I set this $6,000 on an outstanding suspense account. So here I just use one suspense account. And this will allow me now to reconcile my opening bank statement that will be there by default with my opening balance I just imported. So if I come back here, I have, of course, one item to reconcile. I can just click on it, and you see that the first line that Odoo is suggesting me for this reconciliation is my suspense account. I can just select it and validate the reconciliation. Now my balance sheet is correct, my bank account amount is correct, and I'm good to go. With the bank statement, I can also easily reconcile the future payment I will receive from my customer from the unpaid amount from my customer balance, or the future payment I will make to my supplier with the bank statement I will receive in Odoo. So let's go back to the age receivable report. If I check here, for instance, Alan has to pay to me $31.46 for the invoice number 26. And for the use case, again, let's create manually a bank statement. And let's say that 3 days after the transition in Odoo, Alan will pay this invoice number 26. So I will just create my bank statement for $31.46 and I will save. What happened is that here Odoo automatically reconciled the opening balance, so my unpaid amount from Alan in my miscellaneous operation, with my bank statement. So now the invoice is not due anymore from Alan. And if I check back my age receivable report, at the date, of course, of the 13th, so when Alan paid to me, Alan disappeared from this age receivable report as the invoice is not due anymore. We are almost ready to use Odoo accounting in real life, but now Emily's next step is to grant access to her accountant to her Odoo database. For that, she will simply go in the general settings and manage users, and she will create a new user for the best accountant. And she will provide him access to the accounting application only with the accountant access rights. And this access right will give access to the accountant of the financial data of Emily in real time, therefore reducing manual work and giving him more time for value-added tasks that will help Emily's company grow even further. To summarize, here are the few steps you have to take to smoothly transition into Odoo in the middle of your financial year. First, if you are already using Odoo for invoicing purposes, you have to set the invoicing switch threshold at the date of the transition. This threshold will allow you to start your accounting in Odoo on a clean basis with all the previous invoices cancelled. Then you have to import your initial balances from your old accounting software at the date of the transition and to include unpaid customer invoices and vendor bills. Do not forget to differentiate between the partners and the invoices to ease the future reconciliation. Lastly, you can just give access to your accountant to your Odoo database, and congratulations, you are now ready to start your accounting on Odoo. As a summary, switching to Odoo in the middle of the financial year might seem like a complex task. A lot of you might feel lost in the process they have to follow. But, as Emily's experience just showed, it is entirely achievable with the right approach and tools at your disposal. I hope this talk has helped you to better understand the process of such a transition, and thank you for joining me today. And I'm now available to answer to your question that you can submit through this QR code.
Well, Colin, thank you for the clear presentation and the amazing storytelling. It was really clear to follow. I opened the pad, but I don't see any questions at the time, but maybe people are in it now by scanning this QR code and posing their questions. And I see a few people typing already. Just we give you some extra minutes or seconds better to type your questions. And they are coming in a hell of a speed. I just wait for the questions to
of course.
be written down. So it's your task to type. Still typing. The first question. Is it recommended to use your own bookkeeper?
You can use your own bookkeeper, a bookkeeper, like an accountant, you mean?
Your own bookkeeping.
What do you mean?
Still typing. I thought it was the end of the question.
Okay.
Let's jump to another question that is done. Why do we separate into 3 different sheets of import?
For me, just a way to ease the import processes. So you can really differentiate if I have an error, for instance, on my customer opening balance, I can more easily spot a mistake. And then I have a clear view on my entries and I can quickly check, okay, this is my customer entry. And I see all the unpaid invoices. It just to be more clear, but you could import everything at one time as well.
Okay, the next question. How do you transition considering open deliveries and sales order in an automated inventory valuation?
Okay, that's a good question, and that's a bit more advanced. That would require more time to answer. So for that, I would recommend you to come at the accounting booth that you can find in hall number 7, I think, and we will explain you this process in detail with your database.
Okay, and maybe a more open question. What about cash basis entries?
Okay. If you're on a cash basis taxes process, you will need to import all your invoices that were not paid at the date of the transition individually. So not in an opening balance, but really all invoices individually to be able then to register the tax at the end.
Okay. Does the threshold option requires determinate localization?
No, it's available, I think, for all localization, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. An open-ended question. Best practice to migrate existing projects from previous system?
Okay, you mean projects? It's more project, not accounting. I don't know what's about the question. Yeah, if
I would say
can
so.
Be a bit more precise, if it's linked to accounting or not. I don't know.
Then just jump to the next question,
Yeah.
maybe, because
Okay.
the questions are coming in. What do you reconciliate your tax declaration with?
Okay. You mean, can you repeat the question?
with the TVA.
Yeah. So maybe here in my example, the thing is that I will need to have my tax report for November in my old accounting software because I'm in the middle of an accounting period. And then I would just create like a miscellaneous entry for my tax report that I created in my old software in Odoo for November to be up to date, and then just reconcile the amount I had to pay or receive from the administration with the bank statement. But I'm not sure that was the question. I don't know
I
if.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Pum. Is it recommended to use your own bookkeeping software parallel until you switch to Odoo with a go live?
Uh, yeah, you can make a transition period. So, for instance, here, as I was in the middle of my tax period, I could do like a transition period of 1 month, the month of November. So, having my accounting in Odoo and in my old accounting software in parallel, and just switch to accounting at the end of the first
Okay.
of December. So, yeah, that could be a process to
Okay.
have.
And is there a cost connected to connecting your bank accounts?
It depends on the provider you are using. So we have some providers that are for free, like Saltage and Enable Banking, and Ponto that has a cost per month, I think of €4 per month per bank account.
Okay. And does Odoo support other file formats to do the import?
Yeah, so here I import it in Excel. We can also import in CSV. If you're in France, you can also import in the FEC format. And we also have a module that allows you to import from Winbooks directly all your entries.
Okay. The next question: once you set the invoices, what is the next step? Asset, loan, salary, and can we migrate without setting those?
When you mean when you set the threshold?
Uh, yes, when you set the invoices and the vendor bills, what is the next step?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, once you set the invoices, what is the next step after? Like you did in the presentation, you
Yeah.
set the vendor bills,
Yeah.
the invoices.
Yeah.
What is the next step after that? And he suggests what we do in assets, loans, salary, and can we
Okay.
migrate
Yeah.
without setting those?
You can add also for instance, if you are talking about assets, you can first start your accounting and then add your asset even after the transition, but with setting a date at the date of the transition. So it's all the configuration that you can do while being live on accounting. Most important, and you can also add your salary, miscellaneous operation for the month of November directly in Odoo if you are willing to. So it will really be a process step by step through your accounting process. So add salary when you have a salary entry to do, create your asset even if you started to use accounting. So I could like next Monday, if I'm transitioning today, create all my assets, even existing assets in Odoo, and it will be up to date.
Okay, great. Um, a question for the best practices to import partially paid invoices from the old system into the new one.
Okay, you will do the exact same process. In the, for instance, customer balance, you will just import the unpaid amount and you will not import the amount that was paid. So only the partial unpaid amount.
Okay, great. That was a final question because we ran out of time. For the questions who didn't get an answer, you can ask Colleen at
Yeah,
the
we
booth
can.
somewhere. And I wish you an amazing Odoo experience further. Thank you.